There's a story older than recorded history, a story carved into stone tablets buried beneath the sands of Mesopotamia, a story that could rewrite everything we think we know about human origins. But almost no one talks about it. Why? Because what the Anunnaki did to humanity challenges the very foundations of our modern world. According to ancient Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki were not mythological gods. They were advanced beings, flesh and blood, who came from the stars, those who from heaven to earth came. And the texts describe their purpose clearly. They came to earth to extract gold and other resources, but they faced a problem. Mining was laborious. The Anunnaki needed workers, and this is where the story takes a dark turn. The texts state that the Anunnaki genetically modified early hominids, engineering a new species, Homo sapiens. We will create a worker to bear the toil. In other words, humanity was not a random product of evolution. We were designed, engineered. But why is this narrative so actively dismissed by mainstream academia? Because if it's true, it shatters the Darwinian model. It challenges religious doctrines. It exposes hidden layers of human history that certain powers would prefer remain buried. And here's the most disturbing part. The texts suggest that the genetic manipulation was not purely physical. It affected consciousness itself, creating a species with limited awareness, easily controlled. Sound familiar? If this is true, then the human condition we experience today, war, division, programmed fear, may not be natural at all. It may be the lingering shadow of ancient manipulation, and the deeper you go, the more unsettling the evidence becomes. Stay with this. In the next parts, we'll explore exactly what the Anunnaki did and why the truth has been so carefully hidden. So what exactly did the Anunnaki do to us? Ancient Sumerian texts, like the Enuma Elish and the Atrahasis, describe in astonishing detail the creation of a new human species. According to these texts, the Anunnaki took the genetic material of a native hominid, what we might call early humans, and combined it with their own essence. Mixed the essence with the clay of the earth. The result? A hybrid being. Stronger, more intelligent, but, crucially, programmable. But why limit human potential? The texts hint at the answer. The Anunnaki needed a workforce that would serve without question, one capable of following orders, but unlikely to rebel. So they engineered us with specific limitations. Lifespan capped at a fraction of their own. DNA sequences deactivated, keeping higher faculties dormant. A neurological structure tuned for obedience over self-realization. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. These modifications didn't just shape our biology, they shaped our consciousness. The texts imply that fear, guilt, and hierarchical thinking were deliberately reinforced, tools of subtle control. Give them kings and priests to rule over them. Sound familiar? Why does human history repeat cycles of tyranny, division, and blind allegiance? Why do so few question the systems that exploit them? Because the programming runs deep. And this is why modern science still struggles to explain the sudden leap in human intelligence some 200,000 years ago. Fossil records show a mysterious gap, an abrupt emergence of complex language, art, and culture. Evolution alone can't account for this. But genetic engineering can. And if this story is true, it means that humanity's natural state has never been fully realized. We are operating with shackled potential by design. Now ask yourself, why is this narrative absent from mainstream discourse? Why do institutions ridicule it, despite the direct evidence in the oldest written records on Earth? Because if the masses realize the truth, the entire structure of control would begin to unravel. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Stay with this. The deeper layers will change how you see everything. If this ancient genetic manipulation happened, its effects didn't vanish with time. They persist, embedded deep within our biology, our psychology, our culture. Look around. Why does humanity, despite technological progress, remain trapped in cycles of fear, division, and conflict? Why do we default to hierarchical systems where a few control the many? Why do so many struggle to access their full potential, while a constant undercurrent of self-doubt and limitation shapes their lives? The Sumerian texts suggest a chilling answer. These patterns were seeded into us. The Anunnaki didn't just create physical workers. They designed programmable consciousness. Fear was woven into the system because a fearful population is easily controlled. Hierarchical thinking was reinforced because when people look to external authority, they rarely question the system itself. And crucially, higher faculties, intuition, multidimensional awareness, true creative potential were suppressed. Let them know not the secrets of the heavens. But here's the twist. This suppression was never perfect. Fragments of the original human blueprint remained. Traces of the unmodified potential still exist, dormant, but not erased. And this is why certain individuals throughout history have pierced the veil, visionaries, mystics, geniuses who tapped into higher states of being. It's also why ancient mystery schools existed, to teach methods for reactivating what was locked away. Breathwork, sound, sacred geometry. These were not superstitions. They were tools to bypass the imposed limitations and awaken dormant codes. And today, as global consciousness rises, more people are sensing this truth intuitively. They feel the dissonance between their true potential and the programmed reality around them, and they are seeking ways to break free. This is why the Anunnaki story is so dangerous, not because it undermines history, but because it empowers individuals to reclaim what was taken, and those in control understand this. That's why the narrative remains buried, mocked, dismissed, ignored. But as we go deeper, you'll see that the cracks are widening and that the awakening cannot be stopped. Stay with this. The next layer will reveal why this story matters now more than ever. Why now? Why is this ancient story, buried for millennia, suddenly resurfacing? Because something is shifting. For centuries, the imposed limitations worked. Humanity operated within a narrow band of awareness, conditioned by fear, distracted by survival, fragmented by division. But now, cracks are appearing in the system. Advances in consciousness research, quantum physics, and epigenetics are revealing truths once reserved for mystery schools. We are learning that DNA is not fixed, that consciousness influences biology, that reality itself responds to coherent intention, and this terrifies those who seek to maintain control. Because if the ancient programming can be undone, if humanity remembers its true potential, the old hierarchies will collapse. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Many believe the current global turbulence, the chaos, the polarization, the engineered fear, is a desperate attempt to reinforce the old programming. Keep them divided, keep them afraid, keep them distracted. But the strategy is failing. Across the world, more people are questioning the official narratives. They sense that history is incomplete. They feel an inner knowing that they are more than biology, more than pawns in an ancient game. And as this awakening accelerates, the suppressed truths of the Anunnaki are coming to light, not because institutions allow it, but because the field of consciousness itself is rising. And here's the key. You don't need to believe every detail of the ancient texts. The deeper message is what matters. Humanity was shaped to be limited, but the limitations are reversible, and the tools for reversal are already within reach. The next parts of this journey will reveal some of those tools, and why now is the most important moment in thousands of years to remember what was lost. Stay tuned. You are part of something far greater than you've been told. So if ancient programming still shapes us, can it be broken? Yes. And this is why the Anunnaki story matters now more than ever, because awareness is the first step to liberation. Once you see the patterns, you can choose not to feed them. And here's the key insight. The programming operates through frequency. Fear, shame, guilt. These are low-frequency states. They lock consciousness in survival mode. They keep the higher faculties dormant. This is why the world is flooded with fear-based media, conflict, and distraction. But you can shift this. When you cultivate higher frequency states, coherence, gratitude, love, inner stillness, you begin to override the old code. Your nervous system stabilizes, your intuition strengthens, dormant aspects of consciousness awaken. And ancient wisdom traditions knew this. That's why breathwork, sound, sacred movement, and meditation were central to initiation. These were not rituals for show. They were technologies for tuning the human instrument, reclaiming its original potential. Modern science now confirms this. Heart coherence practices shift brainwaves. Sound frequencies affect DNA expression. Focused intention influences physical systems. You are not a passive product of your genes. You are an active participant in your evolution. And this is what the controllers fear most. An empowered population, aligned, coherent, sovereign, is impossible to enslave. This is why the Anunnaki story was buried, not because it's irrelevant, because it's dangerous to the status quo. And now, as more people awaken, the ancient patterns are breaking, but the process requires participation. One must choose to remember, and you have already begun by walking this path. As we continue, you'll learn more about how to deepen this process and why your personal awakening contributes to the collective liberation of humanity. Stay with this. The next steps are crucial. You may think this is a personal journey, but it's not. Because every step you take to break the ancient programming ripples outward into the collective field. The Anunnaki's greatest tool was not force. It was division, separation from self, from each other, from the cosmos. Divide them, so they shall forget they are one. And this is why your personal coherence matters more than you realize. When you raise your own frequency, Through awareness, intention, alignment, you broadcast that coherence into the field, and the field responds. Others feel it, consciously or not. It creates openings. It weakens the control grid. This is not abstract spirituality. It's energetic physics. Every heart-centered human acts as a node in the network, strengthening the signal of awakening. And as this network grows, the imposed patterns begin to dissolve. You can see it already. More people questioning narratives, more seeking authentic connection, more reclaiming their sovereignty. This is no accident. It is the reversal of the ancient manipulation. And here's the deeper truth. The original human blueprint was not weak or limited. It was powerful, designed to be a conscious co-creator of reality. The Anunnaki suppressed this potential, but they could not erase it. It lives in you, waiting to be remembered. And every act of alignment, every moment you choose coherence over fear, activates more of it. This is why your journey matters, not just for you, but for all. Because when enough of us awaken, the control structures collapse, not through violence, but through irrelevance. A coherent humanity cannot be enslaved. And this is why the story of the Anunnaki is resurfacing now. Because the time to remember is here. As we move forward, you'll learn how this awakening is accelerating and why your voice, your actions, your presence are more vital than ever. Stay with this. The deeper current is rising.
Look around. Something is happening. Across the world, people from every culture and background are awakening, often without knowing why. They feel it, a deep inner pull, a sense that the official story is incomplete, a longing to reconnect with forgotten truths. This is not coincidence. It is the global reversal of ancient programming. And here's what's remarkable. This awakening is decentralized. No single leader, no central doctrine, just millions of individuals tuning in to the deeper frequency of who they truly are. When the many remember, the few shall no longer rule. This is why the Anunnaki narrative matters now, because it explains why humanity has been kept in the dark, and why that darkness is lifting. You are witnessing a planetary shift, and your personal awakening contributes directly to it. Every moment you choose presence over distraction, every time you speak truth over conformity, every act of coherence over fear, you strengthen the field of collective remembering. And as this field grows, the old structures, those rooted in ancient manipulation, begin to crumble. We are seeing this already. Collapsing trust in controlled narratives, rising interest in ancient wisdom. A new wave of consciousness practices, grassroots communities forming around coherence and sovereignty. The controllers cannot stop this, because it is not a movement they can infiltrate or control. It is an emergent property of rising human frequency. And this is why your role is so vital. You are not here to wait for change. You are here to be the change, to embody the original human blueprint, unshackled, empowered, aligned. And as you do, you send a signal. It is safe to awaken. Others feel it, others respond, and the wave builds. This is the moment we were made for. As we approach the final parts of this journey, you'll see how your voice, your presence, your coherence are not only powerful, they are essential. Stay with this. The tipping point is near.
This is not the time to be a passive observer, because the awakening wave needs active participants. Every conversation matters. Every shared insight matters. Every moment of coherence contributes to the global field. You are not powerless in the face of ancient programming. You are not small in the face of cosmic forces. You are a node of light in the emerging network of awakened humanity. And here's the key. The controllers know this. That's why they double down on division, fear, and distraction. Because if enough of us embody coherence, if enough of us reclaim our true potential, the old system collapses from within. No war, no revolution, just an upgrade in collective frequency. When enough awaken, the old shall dissolve like mist before the sun. And this is already happening. Across continents, millions are tuning out the noise and tuning in to higher awareness. They are learning to read the hidden codes in ancient texts. They are practicing inner technologies to reclaim sovereignty. They are building communities grounded in truth, unity, and resonance. And you are part of this network simply by being here. But the wave amplifies when you engage. Share what you learn. Speak your truth, even if your voice trembles. Support others on this path, because connection accelerates awakening. Isolation was part of the old programming, designed to keep us fragmented. But the network is growing stronger, and through it, the Anunnaki's ancient grip is loosening. Remember this. You were never meant to be a slave species. You were meant to be a conscious co-creator of reality. And every step you take to embody this truth helps liberate not just yourself, but all of humanity. As we move toward the final parts of this journey, you'll see just how far-reaching your impact can be, and why the time to act is now. Stay with this. The most important keys are yet to come. We are standing at a crossroads. For millennia, the patterns seeded by the Anunnaki and those who inherited their systems have shaped human history. War after war, empire after empire, control through fear, obedience through conditioning. But the cycle is breaking, and with it comes a choice. Do we continue to live as programmed beings, trapped in survival mode, repeating ancient patterns? Or do we reclaim our birthright as sovereign, conscious creators? This is the essence of the awakening now unfolding, and you are not here by accident. When the veils lift, the choice becomes clear. You have seen behind the curtain. You know that history is deeper than textbooks admit. You feel that your potential is greater than society suggests. Now it is time to embody that knowing. Because awakening is not a spectator sport. It is a path of action, alignment, and service. And your voice matters. Every time you speak truth, you fracture the old narrative. Every time you embody coherence, you weaken the control grid. Every time you inspire another to awaken, you amplify the wave. And the wave is nearing critical mass. That's why the noise is increasing, why division and fear are being broadcast louder than ever. It is a last attempt to hold back what cannot be stopped. Because humanity is remembering. Not just facts, but essence. The original human blueprint, before manipulation, was designed for unity, creativity, and cosmic connection. And piece by piece, That blueprint is being restored, but the restoration depends on us. The many must choose to remember so that the few no longer rule. And this is why your role is so vital. You are not small. You are not insignificant. You are a key piece in a global puzzle, and your coherence strengthens the whole. As we move into the final part of this journey, reflect on this. What future do you choose to create? Because the tipping point is here, and you are part of it.
You've made it this far. That alone speaks volumes, because the greatest act of rebellion in a programmed world is to remember, and now you remember more than most. You know that the story of humanity is deeper than we've been told. You know that forces once shaped us to forget our true potential. You know that the limitations we experience were engineered, not inevitable. But knowing is only the beginning. The one who remembers must choose to live accordingly. Now the choice is yours. Will you return to the sleep of programming, or will you walk the path of conscious creation? Because here is the deeper truth. You are not alone. Across this planet, a quiet network of awakened souls is forming, each remembering, each embodying the original blueprint. And together we are tipping the scales, not through violence, not through protest, through resonance. Every coherent thought, every heart-centered action, every word spoken in truth. These are the ripples that dissolve the old system from within. And you are a node in this network. Your voice matters. Your presence matters. So speak. Share your insights below. Your words may awaken another. Share this message with one who is ready, because together we are restoring what was taken. And the controllers know this. That's why they fear the awakened network more than any army. Because when enough of us remember, the game ends. The light of one who remembers is greater than the darkness of 1,000 who forget. You are that light. Now let it shine. And remember, the awakening is not coming. It is here, and you are part of it.